Welcome everyone to the second episode of the Lord of the Nerds podcast. I am your host, once again, Stephen Carrillo, the king of Gundor himself. Joining me once again is Andrew Vega as we dissect the Justice League and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, both coming through back-to-back Thursday night. How you doing, sir?
I need to interrupt. The Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Okay, forgive me.
That.
Zack Snyder's Justice League. Absolutely correct.
What's up, man? Thanks again for having me. Cheers. United the League once again.
Oh, I like it. I got mine prepping. I've had this one for a couple years. I had to order a replacement, but it still fits.
I got one of those at Walmart actually, and the Superman version too. Found it at Walmart.
$7. I had a Superman version. After I watched it a couple times, it went no bueno. But so you can find those playing. I have to my entire costume is all filled with nerd shirts. I'm pretty sure yours is too.
Yeah, same.
Now, Thursday night, did you watch? You didn't watch it Thursday night. You watched it Friday, correct?
Not Thursday night. Yeah, Thursday afternoon. Actually, we had some. Beyonce and I had some stuff to do. She got a couple appointments. Her last fitting for the wedding dress. Got the wedding coming up. When she got home, cleared everything, shut the blinds, turned everything off, got my popcorn M&Ms, and we just surround sound, put on Justice League for about 4 hours, buckled in.
Did you watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier right after or before?
No, that because Justice League was Thursday, so Friday was Cap Winter Soldier. We saw that when she got home from work. So.
Okay, and how many times have you watched each one so far?
Cap Winter Soldier or not Falcon Winter Soldier the once, and then Justice League twice so far.
Okay, yeah,
twice with bits and pieces.
Yeah, I watched Justice League twice. I had to kind of watch in bits and pieces because it's a 4-hour movie. And obviously I watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier last night a second time, so I got a good opportunity watching both. I actually enjoyed watching the Justice League, Zack Snyder's Justice League twice. I enjoyed it just as much the first time. So let's get to it. Right off the bat, we see the opening of the movie is a completely different opening.
Do we want to do like spoiler free, like kind of thoughts?
No, let's get right into it. We're gonna go spoiler filled. We're gonna dissect this show, dissect both of these programs, just spoiler filled right away. So right off the bat, we enter the movie and we see immediately it's an entirely different opening and prologue that happens. And I actually prefer this one entirely 100% more, 1,000 times more. You see it just had a better explanation, a better opening. You see it basically starts right where Batman vs Superman, the Ultimate Edition, left off. We see Superman dying, and of course he's letting off this godly yell, of course, because that's what he always has been fancied at, especially in DC lore, as a god, essentially coming from the stars. And he awakens a Mother Box. We see Luthor there talking to Steppenwolf, just like we saw at the end of the Ultimate Edition. And we see basically Diana looking at it. She's seeing what's happening, and we're just seeing Mother Boxes go crazy all over across the world. So we see immediately it's an entirely different opening versus what we saw with the Justice. Excuse me, I haven't seen the meme so much a lot. I have to call it Justice. The Joss Whedon intro, which is completely different. It's some time has passed. You've seen crime going up all over Metropolis, and we see a different opening with Batman intercepting an entirely different looking parademon. If you ask me, it looked a little different versus the one we saw back in 2017. So what did you think on the differences of the new prologue?
Ultimately, the entire movie, including the prologue, was just from beginning to end so much better than the Justice League, which is pretty cool that it's caught on now, but it's kind of weird. It's like it was perfect fit for Justice League. Why didn't that catch on 2017? But entirely from beginning to end, it's been a much better movie. Just the opening sequence, it's cool how it opened up at the end of BVS, the way BVS opened up like towards the end of Man of Steel, kind of incorporating the previous events of the last movie. But no CGI face, dude. No freaking mustache gate. That was just so amazing. Just to because that opening sequence, I was already like puckered up when you see the CGI face, that little cell phone video with Superman and the Justice.
Yeah, I saw that in theater. You could see right away there was it was very second tier CGI. You could totally tell, and it felt very It felt very Marvel-like, which isn't bad. You can tell even the difference between the Joss Whedon first two Avengers movies he did versus the Russo brothers. The Russo brothers maintain more of a darker tone with it. They were still able to add that comedy factor into it. But you could totally tell the difference between Joss Whedon and what the Russo brothers did in their Avengers movies.
Yeah, like I loved the Avengers, loved what Joss did in that world. I think I maybe tried to fool myself into liking the Justice League, his version of it, because it was all we were gonna get at the time. So it's just like, okay, this is what we got. It was a Frankenstein of a movie. I like bits and pieces of it, but then watching this Zack Snyder's version is like thinking back on it, it's like there's nothing that Justice League did that improved in any way on what we saw with Zack Snyder's movie. So yeah, beginning to end, Zack Snyder's movie was much better, even though I do have my complaints with it. I do have negatives about it in the Snyderverse overall, but it's just, yeah, much better movie. Totally worth seeing. Totally worth signing up for HBO Max. If those of you who haven't seen it, to give this movie a go. Even don't let the 4-hour runtime, get to you. It didn't feel like 4 hours watching it through, but then it's broken up into chapters, so you could watch a couple chapters, take a break, come back the next day or a couple hours later. And
yeah, so that's what I did opening night. Thursday night, I watched the prologue and part one up until the point we see when Steppenwolf arrives on Themyscira and he's able to steal the mother boxes. So I was able to watch the first part, maybe the first 47 minutes Thursday night, went to sleep, came home Thursday night, and just really went ham, watched it from beginning. And yeah, obviously I took breaks too, so I found myself watching it till about 1:15 in the morning. And then of course I jumped on Disney Plus and watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I had a late back-to-back late. I actually did the same thing last night too. So that's why we started this a little behind schedule. But going back into the prologue, I really liked just the way he was able to set up, because in the 2017 version, we didn't really get an explanation as to why the mother boxes were awakened, why they were waking out, what was going on. So we didn't see any explanation to how that happened. All we saw was a video of the mother box not attacking, but fusing with Cyborg and turning Victor into Cyborg. That was never really explained. I think now we saw with this, we're seeing Superman let off this godlike roar, godlike yell of death, and it's sent across the whole earth. Basically, it felt this happen, which I thought was pretty cool, because that's essentially what Superman is. He's a god coming from the stars with these crazy ass powers. He can do so much, and we're seeing him die. The whole world felt it, even from Themyscira, even down to Atlantis, which I thought was badass that they were able to incorporate both of those universes. What'd you think on that?
Yeah, it just makes a lot more sense this way, because Zack Snyder had his vision for Justice League's part 1, 2, and 3. It just completely makes more sense with, like, that's what activated these mother boxes, this MacGuffin, to set the story in place to get the Justice League together. So yeah, just from beginning to end, everything that was in this movie makes a lot more sense.
So I personally only saw the 2017 version once. I saw it opening night. I enjoyed it. I walked out, but I was kind of like, man, it was good, but it wasn't anything that I would like look back and be like, oh man, as soon as that thing comes out, I'm gonna watch it again. I'm stoked about it. Like with Man of Steel, I've seen that numerous times. I've seen Batman vs Superman numerous times, preferably the Ultimate Edition. Same thing with a lot of Marvel movies, the Star Wars movies, anything that I'm truly like a nerd or fan of. Well, similar to The Last Jedi, Justice League, I've only seen once. So that, you know,
same with the BVS. Ultimate Edition, adding in that extra half an hour makes things make more sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when you see theatrical versus Ultimate Edition, is like, why'd they take that out? That was important.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Adds more to Lois Lane, adds more to Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne.
So a big problem I've noticed with Warner Brothers, they tend to meddle with what a lot of directors want to do. Okay, I'm a huge fan of Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings has put out, Peter Jackson has put out extended editions of his movies that have made his movies significant. They're already great in my opinion. However, he's put out extended editions that add extra aspect to the movies that are make the movies from great to phenomenal. And even with the Hobbit trilogy he did, there's extended editions, there's scenes that were taken out in some of those movies that would have added great storyline to what he was trying to do. But in like the third Hobbit movie, they add this comedic factor with a guy named Alfred, and it's just ridiculous. He dresses in drag. It's kind of stupid. It really is stupid. It takes away from the movie. And you take there's
how long are those extended editions of the Lord of the Rings?
Well, so each Lord of the Rings movie is pushing about 3 hours. They're all around 3 hours. And even so, the first two, it turns those 3 hour movies into about 3 hour and 45-minute movies. So there's an additional 45 minutes of added content. That's great stuff too. It's not just like it's not it's definitely not filler content at all. And then with the third one, The Return of the King, the final one, that one has a runtime of about 4 hours and 15 minutes. So they go deep. They go really deep with added content in that one.
Well, that I can understand. WB, like same with this Justice League 4 hour version. I don't see it working in movie theaters where people are going to sit for 4 hours. There's going to be an intermission, of course, but financially for them, it's not going to make them money because the amount of times you can play a movie in a theater. That's why the whole controversy of once Zack was off the project, WB wants. I got the book right there, Release the Snyder Cut. I don't know if you could see there by
yeah.
It's actually a pretty good book. A lot of informative information. Sean O'Connell, he's on a channel that I watch, Cinema Blend, Real Blend podcast. Check it out. Good read. But basically, they want a 2 hour movie just to play more times in theaters. They like so many other things involved with
this. They figure that marketing figures that they're not going to stack a bunch of people get hyped up to come see a movie that's 3 hours plus.
Yeah.
You know. Now, if I remember,
wasn't Infinity War just about 3 hours or so?
Yeah. But you know, similar to even Infinity War or an Endgame, those are pushing 3 hours. Obviously, Endgame was over 3 hours, but the movie was so good it just runs through. And I actually felt that with Zack Snyder's Justice League. Going back to the release of Snyder Cut controversy in the book you were talking about, wasn't that a big talking factor? I remember leading up to the release of the Justice League that Snyder's version was going to be pushing like 2 hours and 45 minutes. And there was a lot of talk that WB was like, hey, that's a little too long. We don't know if we want that. And then you see when you saw the 2017 version, it with credits, it finished at around 2 hours. So you can take about 10 minutes of 10, maybe 8 to 10 minutes away in credits, especially with the movie. It's got a lot of CGI. So you saw the editing was just off the charts. It was all over the place. That's one of my biggest complaints about the original one.
Yeah, because it took away from so much important meat of the story. Because we have 6 different characters, this one includes such an amazing backstory and almost a complete full arc for Cyborg, which I really liked in the 2017 version. I was like, cool, I like this character. Wish we had more, but this one gives you so much more. And it makes it so much more important that he's there. Same with the Flash. There's a little introduction in this movie. Like, I didn't really like Barry in the last movie. The opening sequence where he's in at the pet shop on this one was too much of that goofy, bumbling guy. Like, me out of it. But he developed a little better, and I liked him a lot more. I'm wearing the Flash T-shirt just for like. Because he ended up being my favorite scene in the movie. I don't know if you could probably guess which one it is, but towards the end,
we'll get into that because I actually enjoy that. I did think the pet shop scene was a little bit much. Of course, they wanted to maintain. He had to be the one comedic factor, the one comedian on the team. I did like how when the crash happened, how he was able to use his power. So let's move on. After the prologue, we see. If I remember right, we get into we finally see Steppenwolf come on down when they're in Themyscira. I think Themyscira was if I remember right, that was the first mother box.
It was a little later, but yeah, they set up Lois Lane. We kind of start meeting the characters.
Sorry, we're seeing
Lois Lane. Yeah, Lois Lane getting the coffee and all that stuff.
And then she's visiting, which I thought that was cool. I don't know why that was taken out. I have no idea why that was taken out. Because one of my biggest complaints of Batman vs Superman, even in the Ultimate Edition, there was that relationship that was built so strong between Lois and Clark that they were able to build that bond, and that you saw it touched upon a little bit in Batman vs Superman, but I think there was so much kind of character building with Bruce and kind of what I don't know what the hell Lex is doing, but we saw that happen. So it took away a lot from what could have been with Lois and Clark to see them build their relationship even stronger to what it really was.
Yeah, because you have to jam a lot in there in BVS because we're introducing Batman, Bruce Wayne, Lex Luthor, which again kind of goes to my gripes about the Snyderverse. Is like the Superman legacy, the way it's built up in these 3 movies so far. It's just like it doesn't make sense to me how we start off with Man of Steel, like, hide your identity because you're going to be hated in this new world. You're an alien. People don't understand you, so they're not going to like you. They're not going to accept you. And then into BVS, where you set up the Batman Bruce Wayne doesn't like him because he's an alien. He can take us all out. And then towards the end of the movie, it's just like this, just because of the Martha switch, it's like, oh, he's human. He's lived on this planet. And then into this movie, we got to put the team together for Clark, for Superman. And then Barry's like, oh, he's my hero. It's like just that Superman legacy in these 3 movies isn't built up in this Snyderverse. That's my gripe about it. It's like Superman needed his own standalone sequel to make this fleshed out more and make the story of we need to bring Superman back make a lot more sense to me. So that's my gripe about the Snyderverse and the storytelling of it. Like Superman needed his own full sequel on that. So that's why it gets a little too jammed with so many characters, have to build their backstory, build their introduction, stuff like that. And the Superman Lois romance kind of thing needed to be fleshed out more. So, but that's how they fit it into this. It's like, okay, fine, I'll go along with it. This is the Snyderverse.
And I think that's the problem too, is we weren't able to fully get to see that full legacy of Superman built up. Obviously, if you knowing the DC comic lore, we know how important Superman essentially is to the entire DC universe. You see that with the death of Superman story arc. When you see his death, you see essentially every single DC character and subplot character and supporting characters come out to see his funeral when he passes away.
So there's an importance of Superman in these movies that we don't get to see as the audience. People like us in the DC world know we have our headcanon, we know the backstory, we know all the stuff about it, but in these movies, it's just not introduced.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's not introduced. Like
versus you see in Endgame and even going forward after Tony Stark dies, it still felt going forward because he was there from the beginning, and you had this basically, what was it, 12 years, 11 years of building up Tony, and he was, started it all. So we don't get to see that. We would have liked to have seen that. So that's a problem we're always going to have with the DC extended universe. We see also in this film Bruce traveling to try and find Arthur Curry, Aquaman, and if I remember, it was kind of rushed through in the original one. This one, Zack Snyder's version, he goes through a little bit more, asking a lot more, poking into. Of course, we're going to see that with the 4-hour cut. We're going to see all the details about it.
Yeah, well, we saw that he saw the metahumans in BVS. That small clip of Arthur Curry underwater, the Flash at the liquor store, and the cyborg being put together. So he knows Arthur is the Aquaman. The way it was done in this 2017 was that quick little glance over at the wall where it's like drawn like the mother boxes and the picture of Arthur is drawn on there. It's like but he already knew, and then telling the audience is like, oh, this is his significance to it or his attachment to it. It's just, again, like I said, it makes a lot more sense in the Snyderverse the way it's put together. Like in my review, I said the length of this was required in order to tell a full kind of story for each character in like their introduction, a little bit of their world backstory, and then coming together as a team.
I think the best part that I only saw Justice League one time. It allowed me to see certain parts of this movie. Essentially, like I felt a lot of times I was watching an entirely new movie, minus like the main parts that you see, like the main parts that you saw in Justice League that were obviously done by Zack Snyder. We see a lot of that, and a lot of key parts in Zack Snyder's version. We saw a lot too in the 2017 version. I did like how you see him come out and he finally meets Bruce, and then he basically takes off. I don't know about that part where you see the Icelandic women singing like that. That was a little weird. I didn't know what the
Again,
hell. I didn't know what the
yeah,
hell that was. That probably could have taken away. Yeah, maybe not made it into the 4 hour cut, but I guess
yeah.
this is like, hey, we got all this footage. Let's get it out there.
That's kind of yeah what I'm thinking. It's like this is my last chance. This is my one chance to get everything. Here's everything I filmed. Here's all of it. You can have it. But yeah, like the Icelandic little song. And again, going back to Snyderverse, my gripes about it is his song selections. He's very with the needle drops, like the different song selections that happened with each character introduction. Took me out of it. It's like it could have been better with like the Junkie XL score, which hearing that Junkie XL score, I love. Like, don't like what he did with the Wonder Woman theme, but introducing new music to it.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. He was able. I did see a lot of I did see a lot of parts where we did see the Junkie XL music parts, but then I almost felt up until the very essentially the very end of the movie, every scene we see Diana in, we hear that one
chanting
that's
that chanting tribal like I didn't like
yes,
the
yes.
addition to that.
It was okay. I like it was cool in the beginning, but I don't need to see it every time Diana does something. Okay.
Yeah.
Because we're in the middle, we're hearing everyone else has got their song, but it almost seemed like everybody had their own little score every time they were doing something at times.
Well,
Bat-
that's what I love about the DC universe. Each character has a theme. You hear like from since Man of Steel, like because Hans Zimmer, he gives each character a theme. So Man of Steel theme brought back in this was awesome. Giving Diana Wonder Woman her themes, it's iconic. Like Marvel characters don't really have that. So
yeah, I bet you see anytime Batman does something, you hear like that hardcore kind of metal music a little bit. As because always, all he can do is really kick ass. Everyone else has got all these powers. Um, so you see, yeah, I did like that part. So what did you think about Steppenwolf's arrival to Themyscira versus the first one? So me personally, what I took away from it, you saw a much more. You saw initially the mother box awaken, and Hippolyta comes later, and she knows what's going on. I don't remember in the original version if it was Diana or Hippolyta who told the story about what happened. But I do remember. So I do remember Steppenwolf arriving. It was very short. It was a very short and quick fight. He takes the mother box after they take off. I do remember the part though where they were busting down those walls, and then I don't remember actually uh that little temple going into the sea. I think that was new. So, but okay, so let's go back to my favorite part about that. Um, when you hear Hippolyta yell, "Daughters of Themyscira, show him your fear," and you just hear this, "We have no fear." I thought that was so badass because
yeah,
it reminded me so much of 300. Also, we know that if I remember, Zack Snyder did 300. So when I see all these Amazon women yell, "We have no fear," it just felt like I was watching for a split second, for one moment, like I was seeing like female Spartan characters out there ready and they're prepared to die, which I thought was badass. I didn't feel like I didn't see that or remember that in the original version. And then of course the scene where the temple goes into the water and then the chase was much longer, I felt, and it just added so much more. It added so much more to it versus what I remember seeing in the 2017.
yeah. In 2017, that line wasn't in it, which was so badass, saying like a warrior women like kick ass. The temple didn't fall into the water, but yeah, the introduction of this Steppenwolf, the design was much better than the one in 2017, and there's more character to him as opposed to just the bad guy who got called for these mother boxes and he's going to take over the world. He actually has more of a purpose. There's more story told about Steppenwolf, where he's trying to get back in Darkseid's good graces, and we're introduced to Darkseid as opposed to just a quick mention to him. So again, everything makes much more sense. It's a much better movie. That sequence at Amazon was awesome. It was extended a little more. Got the R rating, so it made it a little more brutal with like the blood splatter and the cool the cool action sequences. Yeah, it was a little more extended and just more badass than it was in 2017.
And then going forward, we see in the next part, we see obviously Steppenwolf arrive at his town, that he's running. I thought the best part that was taken at.
I think we skipped over the introduction of Diana and that that museum or bank sequence.
Yes, yes, there was a. I felt there was a
that was before. Yeah,
it maintained the same tone from the original. However, at this version, I felt we see a far more ruthless warrior type, which I like. Okay, so there's
again,
obviously
rated R, so that you could tell it's a bit more brutal. Like I mentioned, we're watching the movie, and like I'm like Wonder Woman straight up killing these fools.
yeah. I saw one thing we've always talked about how we see Patty Jenkins' version of Wonder Woman is slightly different than Zack Snyder's version of Wonder Woman, where she's essentially more of that warrior type, ready to like just she's ruthless. She doesn't care. And that if you follow the New 52 comics, that storyline of Diana, she was always that ruthless type, just slicing heads off. We see. Did you ever read the Justice League Apocalypse? First those first I think like 8 or 12 issues when they relaunched the New 52 after Flashpoint.
I did read them. I don't remember them.
There's a lot of scenes in there where she's like taking out these parademons, and she's just literally she's hacking limbs and heads off left and right.
Well, that's the thing. In the comics, she's a lot more free to be more warrior-like and violent, but she's killing monsters and demons. She's not really killing humans. She like her story is like her humanity, her heart. She takes care of the world of man. So seeing the rated R version of this was a little interesting. Like you see her slam that dude's head into the side of the wall.
Yeah, his skull's cracking. He's literally he's leaking. He's leaking.
Yeah, but then if you think about and then what she does later to the main guy when she just evaporates him,
he's done.
She brings me back to the first Wonder Woman movie where she gets tossed or she jumps into the church tower. She completely obliterates it. It's like, yeah, that sniper's kind of dead, but it's weird having more of a visual representation of brutality and rated R version of these characters.
Do you like it or do you disapprove or approve of it?
I'm okay with it, but it's a bit shocking at first because like going back to BVS, watching Batman in that chase scene destroying all these guys, and then in the bat plane, the way he just fires the missiles at these dudes one by one in that truck and destroys them. It's like it's a little interesting.
He does provide a more I don't give a shit type of attitude with his characters. Like we see, like we mentioned, we see skulls cracking and Diana's just like taking her shield, knocking fools' heads off and obliterating this guy literally with her greaves. And then this little girl is like, oh, can I be like you someday? She's like, we could be wherever the hell you are. I'm like, what? She kind of just launched, like she literally set off an IED in this museum and launched a bunch of debris at all these cops sitting down on the ground. I like the ruthlessness of it. It was a little over the top, but I liked it.
It's the Snyderverse. It's like the juxtaposition of she's destroying these guys and then she turns around like, everybody okay?
We see that in a lot of his works he's done with DC products. We see in Man of Steel, Superman and Zod and the Kryptonians just destroying everything in sight, like literally almost destroyed Metropolis and brought it to ashes. We saw that, and even in the Batman vs Superman we see that when they're fighting on Rikers Island, just destroying everything there. So
but I like how in Batman v Superman they say, "Oh, that island's deserted."
Yeah.
To avoid the fact of like the death toll that we saw in.
But even you see in Batman vs Superman, the Ultimate Edition, when Doomsday launches from the ground into the air to the tower, the original theatrical version, he just goes straight up. In this version, he goes right through a helicopter.
Yeah,
and he's just you see the difference. Or even in my favorite part, the warehouse fight scene. When Batman rolls up on all those guys, you see a difference is when you see him launching the crate at people's faces, and you see that one dude's head hit against the wall, and it just leaves a blood trail as he goes down. So you see definitely a far more ruthless side of it. That's always going to be Zack Snyder. I mean, we think about this is the guy who, when we saw 300 back in 2007, we had never seen a movie where limbs and heads and we're just getting like hacked off like that before. It changed filmmaking after that.
Well, I mean, if you're a horror fan, you've seen that since.
Oh, okay, yeah. Stuff. But as far as like any type of like war style movie, when he brought like that comic aspect to it, obviously if you see like Braveheart and Gladiator, you're gonna see that violence. But I think 300 provided like a different style of it. Kind of like and it kind of changed the way you like in filmmaking, almost like what you saw in the Matrix, when the Matrix came out and they were doing the Wachowski brothers or sisters were using that different style of CGI back then, and then you kind of saw more people like, oh shit, let's add slow motion bullets into our films now.
Yeah, well, Zack Snyder is a very visual storyteller. He's a very visual filmmaker. He has a unique style with the slow motion and his green screen worlds that he creates, starting since 300, going to Sucker Punch, and even these movies, a lot of green screen. So he's very visual. He has a very visual art style as far as his filmmaking goes.
Side note, did you like his version of Dawn of the Dead? That one didn't have provide all that. It didn't provide all that CGI, but even in then we saw people getting killed and eaten in ways that we had probably never really seen. We always saw these slow moving zombies that they'll get you if they roll up on you in numbers, but you could easily get away. In these versions, you had zombies chasing after you in full sprint.
Yeah, I think that was the first introduction of the world to Zack Snyder, like the Dawn of the Dead remake, which stands as one of the best horror.
That's one of my favorite. As far as zombie movies goes, it's for me, it's my favorite.
The screenplay by James Gunn. So there's another name.
Oh, really? I did not know that. Did not know that. Even better. Okay, so moving on. After we see Steppenwolf establish his town, which I thought the best part of that switch around was it was an abandoned town. You didn't have the Russian family that added no substance to that original. It was about 10 to 15 minutes of just filler content. I don't why.
It was all just for the lighthearted comedy jokes in it, where that girl gets the bug spray because they're bugs. It's like nobody cared about that family. That was a poor and horrible setup and payoff to everything, which then goes to lead into my favorite scene of all time, just about in the Snyderverse. Is like you took what we see in Snyder's movie and replaced it with what Flash did in that movie. Is like it's unbelievable to think about. Like I was a bit mad after watching this movie because I was like, how could they see this movie, chop it down so bad, and give us what we got in the movie? Like,
if they were worried about the runtime, you could have made it a part 1 and a part 2 in back-to-back years.
Even this movie, going back to the 4 hours, there's a lot of it that's filler, could have been cut to 3.5 hours, and we would have got a Endgame style, Lord of the Rings style movie. Like with this was epic. I felt this movie was like
I thought so. I felt it was epic. I have heard. I do listen to a lot of podcasts on these subjects, and I have heard one that these guys were just trying to shit on it. But it's just listening to them. They're just Marvel fanboys, unfortunately. There is a lot of, as you know, a lot of MCU fanboys out there that they just don't. I'm
a huge Marvel fanboy myself. As far as the movie universe, can't be done any better than what the MCU did. Yeah.
No, I think
I don't discriminate. I love it all. I'm glad we get all this content.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Obviously, I love the DC. I love the DC content. Me personally, I'm more of a DC fan at heart as far as their animated properties and their comics. But I've always felt that Marvel is the golden standard as far as film universe. And well, this day and age, that's what makes the money is the films. So okay, going forward, after we see the town didn't implement the Russian family storyline, you see now Steppenwolf talking more. That's when we see him contact Assad, and we start seeing more of the motivation, and we see more character building of Steppenwolf, and we see the introduction to Darkseid. We didn't initially see Darkseid, but we saw, okay, this is what's going on. This is the motivation. This is Steppenwolf's motivation. Talking about Steppenwolf, I thought his character building itself was far more advanced. We saw a lot more motivation. I liked it. We see more of a ruthless side. And we see where he's coming from versus in that 2017 version. We're just like, okay, this guy just showed up. Did the mother box call him? Why is he doing it? All we see is one scene where he says, for him, for Darkseid. Of course, me being a fanboy, I know who Darkseid is. The casuals, they're probably, who the fuck is Darkseid? So that I like that part. We see more building on that part.
Yeah, like you said, we see more of his motivation. We even see more of vulnerability. Like he's trying to do this to get back in Darkseid's good graces, to be back at his side at the throne. Because in comic lore, Steppenwolf is Darkseid's uncle. So yeah, just seeing the better character design, the better character motivation, and the reason for why he's called by the mother boxes and what he wants to do with them. So yeah, the whole Steppenwolf was much better. That quick explanation of showing up in that Russian town, or it's like, oh, it's toxic here, so like nobody's going to be bothering him. He can set a base right there. So we didn't need that Russian family. We didn't need all those jokes. We needed more of the character design, more of the character motivation, which again, much better in this movie.
And then I think a little bit past that, we go to Victor Stone's apartment, and then he's talking to his dad, and we see, if I remember in the original version, I don't know what to call it. I should stop calling it the original version. I feel like that Justice one is now been a retcon, so it doesn't exist anymore. I think.
Yeah, this from recent time forward, just Justice League is what it is.
Yeah. We see Victor's. He's still struggling with himself, and I think that is one of the biggest things about this film is we see a huge story and character build with Cyborg / Victor Stone. We see so much more behind it. We see that I thought that the best part was that recording his dad left him, where he gives him a quick rundown of everything he could do. We really get to see, because this is true. In the comics, Cyborg is incredibly advanced. So we get to see that a lot. And we see what he's truly capable of. And this goes back to why Ray Fisher, the actor, was so pissed off at the Justice League version, because he saw essentially a massive portion of his character written out.
Aside from the mistreatment and all the allegations. The story of Ray Fisher, I stand with Ray Fisher, hashtag I stand with Ray Fisher. Like I follow him on Instagram. Everything he puts out is all about positivity and stuff. And he's always been professional. I saw him on an interview on this DC movie news show that I watched before the Justice League was about to premiere. And he's talking it up like, oh, you can't wait for the fans to see this. And like, at no time did he show any sort of like disappointment or anger towards the movie. Nothing about this Joss Whedon treatment came out until just recently. Like, he's like super cool dude, super professional. And like I said earlier, it's like Cyborg was one of the portions I liked out of the Justice League. But again, this gives him more time to flesh out. And from what I've been hearing for such a long time is Cyborg's character is a lot of the heart of the movie. And this gives it to you, man. This gives you so much more of Ray Fisher being the heart of the movie. He actually helps a lot with getting that team get put together. So it's like amazing story with the Cyborg character, where I wish we could get more from him. Like it's disappointing that WB, like this behind the scenes stuff, where they canceled the Cyborg movie, because there was supposed to be a Cyborg movie, and then maybe even turned into Cyborg and Flash, like buddy movie. And now they're just completely done with Ray Fisher and Cyborg. It's disappointing. It's heartbreaking, because he was an amazing part of the movie.
I'm not really sure what WB's plans are as far as for any of these characters going forward. I don't know if we'll ever see a Flash movie with Ezra Miller. I don't know
that's in the works right now. Yeah.
So I know we've heard that, and there's been speculation that Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck are both going to be in this movie.
Last I know, they're going to go into production pretty soon. They just have the actress who was Iris West in it was just recently announced that she's going to be in the movie. That they lost the actor who plays his dad, Billy Crudup, and they have an actress to be his mom. So they're moving forward with that movie, which after seeing this, I'm actually really excited to see a Flash movie now.
And I know there's an Aquaman 2 in the works. Yeah. There's been rumors here and there. Amber Heard is in it. She's not in it. Filmmakers came out, said she's in it. I won't get into that. I won't get into detail on that. I think we both know the stories behind that. There's no reason to
I just recently kind of bumped into a couple YouTube videos seeing more about her, and it was like, oh, she's not really that great of a person.
Yeah.
I could care less if she's in it or not. It's not going to keep me from seeing the movie. But
yeah. Well, I did hear she does leave turds in people's bed. Something like that. Like I said, I won't get into detail on that.
Get back to the movie.
So I know there's a lot of people say they want her basically canceled out of the movie the same way Johnny Depp was canceled out of the
That
Fantastic Beasts one.
that is unfair. If you're just gonna go base it off of that, that's unfair that he got bumped and she didn't. But anyways,
Yeah. So yeah, we won't dive down that path. See, like I say, so it's changing gears. I will say though, I did like the portion where we see Steppenwolf in Atlantis, or I don't know if it was Atlantis, it was obviously somewhere near Atlantis. So, but just the whole aspect of having Atlanteans in this film, I thought was awesome.
Yeah, again, like I keep mentioning, it fleshes out more of the character's world. It fleshes out a little bit of their backstory, a little more of their world, because we see more of Arthur in Atlantis or talking to Atlanteans. Same with like Barry, we see him at Central City, his meeting Iris, kind of setting up that thing with his dad, and then the cyborg and his dad business. It's like it just helps give you more story, make things make more sense.
Did you did you enjoy the scene where I don't know if I don't recall this being in the 2017 where Arthur is visiting that one I don't know if it's temple monument of some fallen king or whatever, and he's just kind of find peace, and we see Willem Dafoe's character Volko show up, and he's basically telling him like he starts planting those seeds that you see those seeds worked on in the first Aquaman movie. It sets the foundation for Aquaman. He's telling him, take your mother's trident. You know, he mentions Orm, Ocean Master. So I thought that was badass. And it really, if I would have seen that in 2017, going in to watch Aquaman about a year or two later, I would have known, okay, this is what the motivation is behind Willem Dafoe's character. This is what's going on. I know there's trouble in Atlantis. There's some discontent going on, and it makes more sense when we get an intro into Atlantis that they're on the verge of civil war, and Orm is set up. He's basically setting up the armies to attack the surface. So if I would have seen that in 2017, it would have made it truly would have made Aquaman even better than what it was, which I thoroughly enjoyed it in general.
I like,
but it would have actually added a lot more to that story as well.
Yeah, I like seeing that stuff. I like seeing, the introductions, like, oh, cool, here we're setting up for the future things. Because again, like you mentioned, this was supposed to be back in 2017 before the Aquaman movie, before currently Flash. We don't have the Flash movie, but yeah, setting up those little things like to lead their characters into their own movie.
And one of the biggest gripes about the DCEU is that they didn't have these character arc stories going forward to bringing the team together, which is the Marvel format. This version, I think Zack Snyder's Justice League provided a great way to bring these characters in and give us a solid, like, obviously not like we didn't see too much on Diana. There wasn't there wasn't too many added scenes though, but from what we did see with the ones that were added, I thought they established more of an understanding of Diana and her background. But primarily when I talk about that, I'm talking about Barry Allen in the Flash. I'm talking about especially Cyborg and even Aquaman. And it was a great way, I think, for having new characters brought into a movie to establish their story arcs going forward. Although I don't know if we'll get these story arcs going forward. Not likely.
I'm not sure.
No, it's not. I mean, I figure it was a nice one-off, and I look at it more as a Zack Snyder got to truly do his trilogy that was started back with Man of Steel in 2013.
Well, he didn't originally start with Man of Steel to make it into a sequel or trilogy or anything. He did Man of Steel as a one-off movie. Warner Brothers, let's make a universe out of this. It was just kind of, in my opinion, Zack Snyder was the wrong person to build a MCU-like universe. But what he ended up coming up with is kind of a 5-movie story, because we were supposed to have a Justice League 1, 2, and 3 after Man of Steel, BVS. So again, going back to like the character motivation or introductions to further leading along. At this point, we'd already seen Wonder Woman, so we have her kind of origin. Same thing with the story structure and kind of the continuity not being 100% is like BVS. She said she walked away from mankind for 100 years, but then in Wonder Woman, she's it leads her forward into like actually being around more. So little bits and pieces like that kind of bothered me is the continuity and where these characters go from here.
Nice.
A lot of things too, is like as far as the Aquaman introduction, how they have their speech bubbles, or they have to make the space. I was just going back to that. It's like, okay, this is 2017 before Aquaman. This is the way he kind of envisioned it, but they didn't move forward with it. I like what they did in Aquaman better, where they don't needed those speech bubbles. They could just talk underwater.
So I remember, okay, so I was confused about that too, because I've only seen Aquaman like a few times, but I remember they were able to speak without being in Amira's little air bubble.
Yeah.
And then in here you had like a, I don't know what to call it. It was like a squeaking noise. Like it was like a, almost sounded like how dolphins and orcas communicate.
Yeah, I caught that too when the introduction to Mira, she's kind of talking to the soldiers, and you hear little squeaky like dolphin sound.
I'm like, what is happening? What is this?
And then when they talk, they make the bubbles to like leave air around them. It's like, well, that was Zack Snyder's vision of it. That's how he kind of thought about it. Okay, cool, whatever. I'm fine with that.
We also have to remember that a lot of this stuff was written before any of those movies came to fruition, when they were still in early production, when they were just storyboards and shit.
Yeah, so I prefer the Aquaman movie. Just they can talk underwater. That's what it is. We can accept that. We are watching people who live underwater. We can understand that they can talk underwater without having the bubble around them. So.
Going back to the continuity factor, I think my biggest, the thing I hated the most about this universe is the Wonder Woman continuity. You set it up back in 2015 when BVS was happening, that she says, I walked away from humanity for 100 years. So, and I didn't think, after watching Batman versus Superman and then seeing the first Wonder Woman, I didn't find too many continuity issues there. Seeing Wonder Woman 84, I was very confused by a lot of things. And that's one thing I didn't, me personally, I know you enjoyed Wonder Woman 1984.
It was
I did not.
Not the worst movie ever made.
I felt the acting and everything. The acting was great. I will never say anything bad about Gal as Diana ever. I like Steve Trevor.
Going back to Justice League, another one of my, I have very few gripes with this movie. Some performance issues, a lot of the music issues with Zack Snyder's needle drops, but the Diana reading the exposition of the Age of Heroes, the way you hear her narration of it is just like, it's Gal Gadot reading a script. It's like, it doesn't feel like a natural storytelling. No. It's just like, that was another gripe I had.
Wasn't Hippolyta the one who told the story in the first one, or was it Diana?
Hippolyta told Diana the story of the gods in Wonder Woman, but Diana told the story of the Age of Heroes.
Okay. Yeah. Look, Gal is great. Obviously English is not her first language, and you can kind of tell. So having her, like, I'm pretty sure when they filmed that, they probably had to do that a couple times. So there's nothing against her. She's great at what she does as her rendition of Diana. However, maybe not the best one to read that script.
Yeah. So like you were talking about the continuity issues of like the Wonder Woman movie 84. Like I said, Zack Snyder wasn't the perfect guy to build upon this universe, because his story, whatever they wrote in that script was like, okay, Diana's choice of like leaving mankind for 100 years, like it doesn't fit with like building more in the future.
Yeah. So then what you're saying is you don't put that on Patty Jenkins. You're putting that more so on the way Diana was introduced back in 2015 to say you don't like the fact that, hey, I walked away for 100 years, because it throws everything off, because now you're thinking, okay, well, you watched a bunch of Kryptonians come to this planet and essentially we're going to level this place. We were done. And you didn't want to intervene then, which kind of goes against everything her character has been built upon. And she's willing to protect mankind at all costs after what we saw. So I just didn't think everything we know about Diana's character didn't make sense, as far as like, okay, you say that, but you are who you are, and you sat back and watched these Kryptonian. Like, I felt like if you would have fought Fayora Ul, that female Kryptonian in Man of Steel, that would have been a great fight to see. I would have loved to have seen that.
Fayora, she was badass. Same thing in this movie, Martian Manhunter of it all. You know,
Yeah.
if we're talking forward about Justice League.
Yeah, that's always going to be something people complain about. But yeah, that is kind of weird. You have basically Martian Manhunter, who in DC story arc, he's almost as powerful as he could probably give Superman a huge run for his money if they had a one-on-one fight. Of course, Superman would fry him.
I'm talking about these movies, how they kind of retcon things, saying like, "Oh, this general that you've seen from Man of Steel, since Man of Steel, is Martian Manhunter." And then at the end of Justice League, he shows up and says, "I'm here to help now. You know, I see you guys do what you do. I want to join the team." It's like,
So
well, how come
you were watching Bruce fight all these Kryptonians and you were talking to them?
Metropolis. You saw Metropolis getting leveled and you didn't reveal yourself. That's what I'm talking about, the Snyderverse of it
Maybe
all.
he died. Maybe he died, and John Jones is like, "Hey, I'm gonna take his body so I can, blend in more."
That's one thing,
Maybe.
but we see no hint of that at all. There's no hint of that. There's nothing to the story that can make you think that. That's kind of your own headcanon making that up. Like maybe that happened, but it didn't happen.
Yeah.
The Snyderverse, I'm totally cool with Zack Snyder doing a 5-movie story using using these characters. And I'm fine with like using the same actors moving on in their own standalone movies. But let's make Zack Snyder's stuff an Elseworlds type of deal, or main continuity, and then everything else is Elseworlds. You know, I'm cool with that. But
Yeah,
making
I
Zack
think
Snyder the Kevin Feige of the DC universe is not the best option.
that's a problem. I mean, I think if you got the right people in play, you can basically have a good producer. I think the guy who runs it for WB is a guy named Jeff Johns or something like that.
Here and there, I think he's kind of
there's
locked in with that Joss Whedon kind of.
And the problem is they don't have everything in Disney and Marvel is made by the MCU, and which Disney funds it. There's no DC Studios that is basically helming all this and controlling all that and having a Kevin Feige type. This is a bunch of guys in a executive room talking storylines, and which is why they're all over the place, which is why we have another Batman coming out, which is why we have multiple Jokers. We're a year from now, it will be in a 10-year period. We're having 3 Batmans in 1 decade.
Yeah, like I said, I'm cool with having these characters in their own standalone storylines, and I'm fine with having a Zack Snyder vision from beginning, middle, and end done, and then using the same actors in their own standalone movies as Elseworlds kind of things, or the main continuity. Like that would be a good idea, as opposed to like just the bits and pieces that don't seem to fit within what Zack Snyder's done, Patty Jenkins, James Wan kind of thing. It's just like it's very, very sloppy. But I mean,
yeah, no one's on the same page. They're like, hey, we're gonna do our own work, and maybe we can find ways to make mentions of what you guys did in your stuff, but we're not really gonna. It's not canon, pretty much. Or maybe if it is, I don't know. Let's talk about, I think, one of my favorite aspects of this film was seeing. We already know about Bruce, but we see Batman really trying to make amends for what happened in Batman vs Superman. You could see he has this guilt on him, like, shit, man. Like, I am a big part of the reason why he's not here anymore, and I made a promise to really get everyone ready because I know something else is coming. And one of the best things I loved about this movie is you see Bruce being the type that he was so concerned with his legacy and saving the human race back in Batman vs Superman. And when he realized the mistake he made, the way he went about it, he's really trying to fix that. Even at the end of the movie, one of my favorite lines he says is, no matter when he's getting ready to go and take out that tower, he says, no matter what you see, don't worry, just stick to the plan. And you see kind of Bruce, he was prepared to die at that moment. And that's just what Batman has always been about. He knows he's limited with what he's got physically and what he can do physically. He's not a metahuman like these other ones, but you see he was just prepared to go out and die at that moment. And we see that a lot. Kind of, he wants to build on his legacy. He doesn't want to be remembered for basically being a part of Superman's death. He wants to basically be remembered for saving the human race.
Yeah. Again, he's got 20 years in Gotham, 20 years of backstory where he finally just like, okay, if I promised Clark He had the warning from Lex that the bells have been rung, something's coming. So ultimately, yeah, getting the team together was kind of his last hurrah. Like, cool, I did it. You know, I'm gonna fight. Whatever happens to me, if I go out fighting, that's cool. That's it. I know I got the league to move forward and help humanity and the world.
Even even a big portion of that, Alfred had a good story arc in this movie. He had a lot of involvement, and he was a huge part of what the Justice League was doing here and what Bruce is doing. So I thought that was awesome too.
Yeah, again, this is a 4-hour movie. Let's give you everything that I filmed. So having more stuff with Jeremy Irons and the Alfred, the Bruce Wayne Alfred interactions are much better. Him interacting with the rest of the team, like that tea sequence with Diana, was like a fun little bit with Alfred. So seeing a
Now I
lot
don't
more of these characters is always
did
good.
did they have that in the original where he makes that technology on
No,
Batman's
yeah,
Greaves?
that was another cool thing. Like little bits and pieces like that make things make more sense.
Because we see
Because like
Batman blocking these shots when they're shooting at him,
yeah,
but I don't remember any explanation about that. Okay, maybe I
no, yeah,
assume
that wasn't
this is
in
Batman and he's got good armor. But now we see no, he actually created this technology for him to be able to do that.
yeah, that wasn't in the Justice League. But yeah, just those little pieces make things cool, make things make sense. Of like building the solar panels into the gauntlets because they use that Kryptonian tech to test things out and see what he could use for defense.
Now
So
let's talk about a huge. Obviously, there's a lot of different. Like I said, we could talk. We're going to dissect this a lot. Let's talk about Superman's revival. Uh, it just didn't feel like it was drawn together. You had a whole plan going back to where they're sitting around the table talking about it, and it's not just. It wasn't just Victor and Bruce talking about this. You saw Diana weighing in. You saw Barry putting his ideas into it, and Arthur didn't really talk about too much about it. He just said, "Hey, this is a bad idea. We should just leave. If something's dead, we should probably leave it dead." But you really see them coming together and having a full discussion about it, and you see more of that character building amongst themselves. I thought it was awesome. And then you see when Barry's about to make that run, and Victor has that quick for a split second vision of what's going to happen in the event they fail. Now, obviously, we don't know too much about that. That goes into the nightmare, but he basically was seeing Batman's vision, which is in somehow, some way, something happens in which Superman loses it and starts to serve Darkseid. We see him holding bones.
Lois,
Now it just dawned on me that was Lois's bones.
yeah,
Just literally, I just realized that right now. So
yeah,
we see, obviously now he's serving Darkseid. There's huge story arcs about this. One of my favorite animated films is Batman, Superman, Apocalypse, where Darkseid is trying to come up on Kara. He's trying to basically turn Supergirl to one of his female furies, the head female fury, because he knows how powerful she is. And there's been numerous times, I think, where Darkseid has wanted to kidnap and recondition Superman to serve him, because obviously he knows if he has Superman, he can conquer anyone.
yeah. So this was going into Justice League Part 2 and Part 3 of Zack Snyder's vision because he had storyboards written out, kind of like a rough outline of what he wanted to do. So the Nightmare sequence, the Nightmare World, was supposed to be a Justice League Part 2. So yeah, that vision that Cyborg has is a vision of like what's going to happen with reviving Superman. Because going back to BVS, Flash coming in saying Lois is the key. You see that, yeah, he is holding Lois's body. Then somehow, I guess, Darkseid has the anti-life equation, I guess, at this point, which he can control all of humanity or all sentient beings. So he gets Superman, knowing how powerful he is, into his army, creating this nightmare world that we saw from BVS, where like Superman was like the bad guy. So that again goes into what was going to be Justice League Part 2, the coming of Darkseid, and then Justice League Part 3, the whole battle with Darkseid and winning, and Batman was supposed to die at that one too. So that was kind of like the story arc that Snyder created.
I did read that he was set to die, and then you kind of saw it touched upon a little bit when you see a pregnancy test in Lois's drawer that there was going to be like a baby born and he was going to be named Bruce.
There was something about the baby was Clark's. The baby was supposed to become the next Batman, so a super powered Batman. possibly in what part 3 was supposed to be. Yeah.
Now we see Superman get resurrected. He goes to see his monument. He's clear doesn't know what's going on. It for the most part, that scene remained the same. But
there was more. Yeah, there was more added to it. Yeah.
There a key part that was added to, which was very minor, and it was different than what we saw in Justice League. The whole Superman's alive. The Justice League tries to stop him. You don't. Okay, one part I did miss. I did miss this in Justice League when Barry Allen starts saying Pet Cemetery. I did think that part was whatever.
I was fine without it.
I did miss that part, but then because that was just part of that quirky jokiness that Joss Whedon was trying to provide, the quirky one-liners that everybody loves to see in Marvel. So you see him attack. We didn't hear, obviously you didn't see the weird CGI when he finally sees Batman and he grabs him by the throat and he didn't, talk to him. You can see the weird CGI, won't let me live, won't let me die.
That was Justice League, yeah.
And then you don't hear the second plan, Alfred bring out plan B or whatever it was. And then here comes Lois.
Yeah.
So the key change that I loved about that scene was, it was actually the base for that was put in the beginning of the movie where we see Lois on a daily basis go and visit the monument. And she just happened to be close by from doing one another her visits. And she sees a Superman's back. She goes back. It didn't have to be Alfred. It was her. They switched that up. He switched it up a little bit. And I thought that part, it made it a 1,000 times better, in my opinion.
Yeah, because it showed you the reason for her being in that area. Like she had her morning ritual of buying coffee, going to visit the monument, and then going back to her dark and dreary apartment to not be Lois Lane, the reporter, anymore, which was kind of like,
which changes the belief and theories about the nightmare scene, because when you say Lois is the key in 2017, we figure Lois is the key, get Alfred to bring her. That's going to be the key to bringing Superman back to normal. But
they tied it in that way, yeah, which kind of makes sense.
When you start to think about Cyborg's vision, and then when you start to think about when Bruce is sitting on the chair, he's like, you know what? I was having a dream just like this, where Barry Allen's coming to talk to me and tell me that Lois is the key. And Diana's like, well, yeah, she's the key to Superman. Like, he loves her. And he's like, no, there's something else. I don't think that's what he was talking about. And of course, you see the vision now. He's holding the bones, Lois's bones. So we see clearly he's talking about something else.
Yeah. Again, that would have been Justice League Part 2.
And so I really wanted to talk about this. When Clark gets his memory back, you see, I felt a very strong feeling like I was watching part of like a Man of Steel 2, or it just felt very Man of Steel movie, like when he goes back to the ship. We see him pick a suit. We see this moment he has when he gets his memory back and he sees his mom. And it was huge seeing that being touched upon, because like yourself, I'm a huge fan of Man of Steel. I like that movie a lot. And I felt the whole part with his dad, both his fathers talking to him, him flying up to the sky. You hear the music playing from the first movie. Like, I loved it.
Yeah, the return of Superman was like what we had been waiting for, what we've been anticipating. Again, much better going back to the farm in a real location. It wasn't CGI, crazy baby lip face, gross looking. Sorry about sirens. But yeah, fleshing out a little bit more of Clark, his memories coming back, and how he's kind of putting the pieces together of like, they brought me back for a reason and I have to find out why. And you see him go talk to Alfred, gets the information off screen. Yeah.
So that scene I remember was in the original trailer.
Not the whole scene, but yeah.
But remember, you see him talking to somebody, and he's like, "Oh, they said you'd come. They said you'd come back."
I remember theories and watching.
Why wouldn't you put this 45-second scene into the movie? Well, I don't understand the basis for editing that out.
Because they had to make it 2 hours long. That's one of the things I got cut. But yeah, it was in the original trailer, the very first Justice League trailer. It was even theorized because they didn't show who he was talking to. There was even theories that it
Those
could have
time,
been a
it's
Green
black. Oh,
Lantern.
it's blue. I think it's what it's one somebody. I don't understand why that's taken out. That didn't make any sense to me.
And how do you feel about the black suit? I think a little too much is being made about the black suit in the
Well, you
DC
see him wearing a black
Justice League
suit.
circles.
You see him wearing a black suit when Cyborg has that vision of the nightmare. I didn't understand that part. Or maybe you see him black because that's
I think it's just like silhouette, just a shadow, because all you see is the red glowing
well
eyes.
when he's on the ground holding Lois's bones, he has a black suit on.
Well, yeah, no, I'm talking, yeah, just in general the black suit, but yeah, in this movie moving forward, once he got the suit back, it's been all black. I think too big of a deal.
I didn't
Too big
know
of a deal is being made about the black suit.
I thought he would just wear the black suit. If I remember, the story arc in the comics goes the black suit is what's helping him regenerate. It helps him regenerate faster. I saw an animated film about it, and there he's like, "Why am I wearing a black suit?" He says, "This is going to help you regenerate faster." So I could understand him wearing that. I don't know what the basis was for having him pick that versus the blue suit or his traditional suit. I like the black suit. I would have liked to have seen at the end of the movie where he opens up his shirt and he's wearing his traditional.
I felt the same way. Yeah, yeah.
Because that's Superman, but
because that's like, okay, he used the black suit for revitalizing, and then now he's back to normal in his regular red and blue suit. So I think just within the circles of talking about the movie, too many people made a big deal about that black suit. We saw it in Man of Steel. I think pointed out to you this too. It's like, even I had forgot, but I've seen on the internet, it's like, hey, we saw him in the black suit in Man of Steel. What's the big deal with the black suit?
I like the black suit mainly because that's what he wears when he comes back to life. And after he basically kills, when he kills the metallic Superman, and he goes through kind of this run, he's like getting rid of all these false Supermans that are around. But then after that story arc is done, he goes back to wearing his regular suit.
It makes sense in the content of the story of like, this is a rejuvenating suit. He's rejuvenated now. Go back to wearing the red and blue
suit. Yeah, but other than that, I didn't think it was too much. But yeah, I see people getting all hyped about it. Whatever.
I don't get it. It's cool. I would have liked to see him in the mullet. And
it's
the beard.
Something different. I would have loved to have seen long hair and a beard like that. That would have been like really freaking.
Zack Snyder fought for that, but WB fought back, and he's just like, all right, then whatever.
That's weird. And then I go and let's start to wrap this up. I see going into the final battle. I felt like the added scenes, the way they were able to edit with the new, when you had the base content from the first movie, and the way he was able to add this new content into it, and then the way he was able to edit it, it just felt so fluent and smooth the way it was presented from the start to finish.
That final battle sequence with the team together was, again, epic. This movie was epic. So that added to more of the epic structure to it, because each member had a certain purpose, where we had Barry now running around the place to generate that enough electrical power to push Cyborg into the mother boxes as they united to be able to spread them apart. And then the Diana, Arthur, their strength to battle Steppenwolf, and Batman taking care of the parademons. So each character had a purpose in the way they came together. And then leading up to that moment with the Flash, which is my absolute favorite moment of the movie.
Yeah.
That is the one part where I got chills from head to toe, and I like teared up. No other part in the movie made me cry as much as that moment.
For me, it was Batman saying, "I'm going in there, stick to the plan, no matter what you see." He's flying, his ship's going down, comes out. Now he's got the souped up Batmobile, kind of like what I remember having in Arkham Knight. That's what it felt like I was seeing. When the hatch bears down, the parademons are in there, they're trying to take him. He fucking mows them all down. He's taking off through the street, and he's about to get. Even then, it looks like it's over for him, and all of a sudden you see everyone come through all at once, and they had his back. I don't remember if that was in the original movie, but when I'm seeing this, I'm like, oh shit, here we go.
It was similar, yeah. The parademons tore the roof off, and then Diana comes and takes parademon out, and like the team comes together like that. But very similar, but a little more.
The way he was able to edit it. It was just the way he was able to edit it and put it together in one longer scene in battle. I felt it just provided so much more to it. Just the way love the way they all come in at once when you see Flash, Aquaman sitting on there, and then after he does that, he sees Bruce do all that stuff. I love what he tells him. He goes, "You really are out of your mind." because he's seeing like this human who can't do anything as far as physically, but he's just seeing him taking on the whole parademon army by himself. And he's like, dude, this guy is fucking crazy. Like, no wonder he dresses like a bat.
He's
And
legit. He's crazy.
that's why we love him for what he is. That's just how. That's why I love the way they were able to present the way Zack has always been able to present Bruce and Batman in these films. Now go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I love Ben Affleck Batman in this, because he's just like Batman we see in the comics, so brutal, and just like that hand-to-hand combat that we saw in that warehouse scene, and just like very like all the little tech pieces, how he uses it, blocking the parademon.
He's always one step ahead.
Parademons. Yeah,
he's always gonna be. He's just always gonna be one step ahead. And then we think about Superman's arrival, slightly different. If I remember, did he freeze Steppenwolf's hands? Like, did he shatter his hands right off his wrist or something when he froze his hands?
Yeah, he came in with that truth and justice line.
Yeah,
like, I believe in truth, but I also a big fan of justice.
Yeah.
And then he punches Darkseid, and then at one point he uses the freeze breath, and a lot of similar shots, like the shot where he's getting punched and he kind of like slow motion and the hand goes by.
So it was slightly different.
It
was slightly. There was a couple tweaks to it that I noticed, because I went back and watched that scene on YouTube from 3 years ago, and you can see the difference. I like the way Snyder adjusted it. I like the way I don't remember the scene where he's on top of Steppenwolf just beating the shit out of him, pounding him.
There was a similar scene, probably not as long, because I don't think he used the laser, the heat vision.
I don't remember him getting one of his horns.
No, that didn't
laser off.
So they use Superman more in the battle with Steppenwolf, because ultimately that's why they brought him back to life, because we need to beat Steppenwolf, as opposed to having that moment where he's like, oh, civilians, let me go help civilians.
Yeah.
Like, and he runs off with Barry.
Yeah, and then sending Barry to do that.
That entire scene in the Justice League is like, that's what's like so maddening. How I'm telling you, this Flash sequence was like my favorite part of the movie. Like, what did you think about that? We're talking about Flash now.
All right, so going just Flash specifically, there was so many things about the Flash here that I loved about that were implemented. The scene going back to the first time we see him run, when he runs out of his shoes, and then to saving her the way he did it. I like the way he can you still hear me? Sorry, did you lose me? Hold on.
You disappeared. I can still hear you, but you disappeared on the screen.
There you go. Sorry, someone was calling. So the whole scene where he pushes through the glass, I thought was cool, the way he saves it. And then the whole going back to my favorite part is when they're rescuing the hostages, when there's the explosion and the debris coming down, and he's running around in circles trying to save every one of them from getting hit.
Yeah, and
you just
all that debris out of the way.
You just see his silhouettes all over the place as he's saving. I thought that was badass. And then going forward in the scenes where at the end where he's running around in circles, he's running through the whole city, he's taking out all the parademons, and of course leading up to the final part where he sees everything happening, and in an instant he's able to turn on that, because obviously it was a life or death situation. He talks to himself, says, Barry, you got to do it, this is it. But now more so than ever, and he's able, you see him kind of stop and freeze in the space-time continuum, and he just guns it. And I thought that was awesome. And then the music, the score while it's happening was great.
Yeah, that bit of music, I kept listening to it all morning. But yeah, at that point, the mother box MacGuffin thing, like, so create the unity, and there's that explosion. So they miss like their plan. There's that explosion that takes everybody out. And that's where like he enters the Speed Force, and then that music starts playing. Then again, with telling more of each character's story, you see more about him and his dad, and then when he goes into like reversing time, and he's talking to himself like, you got to do it, Barry, you got to go. It's like, be the best of the best, I'm sorry, Dad, and this and that. It's just like, that got me so emotional, just that epic sequence, and the way they visualized it too was awesome. Just the way he's like flying, it looks like he's flying through space and like rebuilding the world as he takes each step. Everything behind him starts coming back together, reversing time. That was just like one of the most epic superhero shots I've ever seen.
The way it was presented when the unity happens and the flash happens, the explosion, and he's able to see it, and just the way it turns blue, you see the explosion building up slowly, and then he's kind of like, he holds that does that little pose, and he's like, oh shit, there it is, now I need to do it now, and he's able to run right through. He heals himself, and I thought it was awesome. And then afterwards, when they keep it from happening, you see the boom tube still open. Darkseid, Granny, and Desader looking on, and they're basically seeing Steppenwolf has failed. It's failed. It's done, and now you see he's pissed off. He's gonna do something. And of course, you see that's what Arthur gets him right through the body. Superman comes, decks him, and then at that, the way they finished it could not have been any better by Diana just going out and cutting his head off. It reminded me of an animated Wonder Woman film when she cuts off Ares' head at the end of the movie. If you saw that one, it was like the Wonder Woman origin story for back in like 2009 or something.
Is that first animated one?
Yeah. It has I
don't remember.
Kerry Russell does the voice for Diana in that movie, the girl from Felicity back in the day.
Yeah.
And that's how she kills Ares in that film. She cuts his head off. So I thought it was, I loved it. And then the way Darkseid's looking on, the boom tube closes, and she's like, "Ready the Armada, we're going to war." And it obviously set the foundation for what would have been the second film, or maybe the third film. I don't know. I think I've read like the second film would have been a Darkseid invasion. A third film would have been the Nightmare. So I don't know.
Yeah, some way of like either Nightmare 2 or Nightmare number 3, but like or Darkseid come in those 2 or 3.
So you see. The significant difference in this film was Steppenwolf was the villain of the film, but we see the foundation was laid for something much bigger, much darker, and it was completely different. Okay, let me do one point I forgot to mention. That the one thing I thought was a little trippy and it bugged me a little in Superman's appearance. There's a scene, I think you could totally tell this part was added on. You could totally that this was a late add-on. When Superman uses his first heat vision on Steppenwolf, it looks like a cutout of Henry Cavill's face, just doing like a plain face, and then his eyes light up red. It just, I don't know, it looked a little weird. It looked like that was an add-on that they might have strung together like in the last couple months. Hey, go back and check that out. Go back and check that out. You see, it looks a little trippy.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff in this movie because it was put together with $70 million straight for the streaming service. Or like I felt even way back in the Themyscira opening, I felt like I was watching a sci-fi TV series, special effects. But it got better. Like,
I thought it was good. But other than that, going forward, the way it ended, obviously, I think we both agree it was great. And you see even the groundwork going forward, what could have been when you see Arthur talking to Mira and Volko. You see Barry visiting his dad again. I don't know about the whole like foot in the door. I thought that was a little too much. And then we see Bruce back at the farm telling him he bought it. I mean, of course, Bruce is gonna do his Tony Stark style flex and just like, nah, I bought the whole bank.
Well, that was in the first one too.
Yeah.
Justice, yeah.
And then of course we get the nightmare scene, which I thought was
Well,
let's talk about that. What did you think about that?
I thought that was cool. Ben and Leto didn't film together. You could tell because they were never in the same shot together.
Really? Okay, so I didn't know that. I did not know that.
No, yeah, the whole Joker wasn't in the original stuff, so Zack's like, let me film.
So he brought him back to film that then.
Yeah, because we don't have in this universe any ever interaction aside from the Suicide Squad. Batman's on top of the car and Joker's in it, and then there's never any interaction with those two. So he thought, like, let me write something to put these two together on screen. But it was always just Jared Leto for like that 5-minute sequence that he filmed on his own. But it was cool. I mean, we see again going to a future version of this part 2 or part 3, where he's got this ragtag Justice League with Mira, and now Deathstroke is on Deathstroke is on his team now, and then along with the Joker.
Did you like the interaction between the two? The way he was able to chop that up?
It felt choppy, just like you're saying, chop it up. It felt choppy, but is what we're getting. I'm cool with it. Seeing like from the trailer when they showed Batman and Joker in the trailer, like I was like, this is
cool.
So
I guess they filmed that scene and Jared Leto completely ad-libbed that, and he's like, fuck it, let's just throw it in the trailer.
Oh yeah, that in the society line.
Yeah.
That meme. I don't know the meme, but
that meme
of "We live in a society" was for the trailer. That wasn't actually in the movie.
The part I did love though is when he starts getting down and dirty, and he tells him like, "Hey, Batman loves it. Batman's notorious for seeing people die, and then he starts to really lay into him. He's like, "Hey, you better watch what you say next." He goes, "Well, he talks about the boy wonder. He brought that up. He goes, maybe you're the guy who sent you sent the boy wonder to do a man's job."
Yeah.
And you could tell he's like, "All right, now we're getting personal."
Push
And
some buttons.
my favorite part is when he tells he's like, when he brings up Harley and he goes, "When she died in my arms, I begged her I would kill you nice and slow, and make no mistake, I will fucking kill you." I thought
Yeah.
that was badass. And then the whole thing about him busting out the card, and he goes, "When you're ready to have that discussion, we could talk about that boy wonder anytime you want, and
Yeah.
then you can deal." So basically, he's like, "When you're ready to go, we'll have that discussion." So I thought that was badass. I mean, for not having the opportunity once in this universe to see them interact, if that's the only interaction we will ever get between the two, I enjoyed it, even
That
though
was
it
cool.
wasn't even done like in person. I thought he
Yeah.
was able to. I thought he was able to wing that fairly good.
That was cool. Yeah, cool little bit for us. Like, wish we could have had some more moving forward. But yeah, like how he gives him the card. Uh, Before in that sequence, he doesn't have the card on the gun. But if you remember BVS, the nightmare sequence, he actually has that card on the
Mhm.
gun. Like, and you never see the Joker at that point. But
You're
that's
right.
cool how like they played with it. Like, okay, if you think about the nightmare sequence, Joker was around, gave him that card. Like looking back on that now, it's like he's holding that card still.
So, would you say the nightmare scene from BVS happened after what we see in Zack Snyder's Justice League? He's seen a
That's how
prelude. He's seen a prelude to his initial dream.
that's how I'm taking it. Because first thing when Batman pops up and I look at his gun, there's no Joker card on it. And then we have that discussion. He hands him the
There's no
Joker card.
Deathstroke and everybody else who was there,
Yeah.
and he's
So
pretty much by himself looking for kryptonite.
so that's how I see it. Is like in this epilogue sequence, we don't have him with the card on the gun, but the nightmare sequence from BVS, he has the card. So he had already had that discussion with Joker.
It's very Injustice. If you ever followed there's a comic book storyline based on the video game called Injustice: Gods Among Us.
I've read 2 volumes of it. I think I have 2 or 3 volumes.
Which essentially what happens is, where they use a kryptonite to fuse with Scarecrow's gas, and they trick Superman into killing Lois, thinking it's Doomsday, and it sets off basically an army, and the Justice League is split in half between Batman's people who don't want that, and Superman, who thinks like, we just got to come out and take control of the whole universe or the whole world because these fools are too crazy.
Yeah. Cool
So
story.
I thought it was very I thought it was a nod to that. I've always liked that story. It's a little different for some people, so I thought that was cool.
It's a good story. Yeah, like I play the video games. I really like the story in that, the storyline in that.
Now to finish up, my main gripes that I don't like about the Snyder cut, the 4-3 aspect. I did not. It goes away fairly quick. You don't really notice it, but come on, it's 2021. Don't be extra. Just give us their full widescreen version. Whatever. It's very minor. I didn't notice it after the first 5 minutes of the movie.
You could adjust it on your TV settings. Like,
but wouldn't it still kind of look like it's stretched out a little bit?
no, not actually stretched out. I watched about half of it, like just kind of zoomed, like the full screen ratio.
I see what
like
you're saying.
So it doesn't look distorted. It's just kind of like zoomed in to fit the TV. But that aspect ratio is supposed to be like for a taller image for when they show it on IMAX.
I did read that.
While,
I didn't notice it after the first 2 minutes, and
yeah,
I kind of felt there was a little bit of excessive slow motion scenes for this movie.
there's a lot of slow motions. We could have had a 3.5-hour movie without the slow motion.
There was the excessive slow motion scenes, the Icelandic women singing their tribal ritual songs. Probably,
yeah,
you could have cut that scene after maybe about 10-15 seconds. I didn't need a 90 seconds of her singing and then picking up a song. I mean, I get it. They look at Aquaman like a god. He comes from the water and he brings them food and water and fishes. Okay, but it's just whatever.
Yeah, that could have been cut down.
Other than that, I enjoy the movie. If I were to give it a rating out of 10, I'd probably give it an 8.5.
Well, what do you think about the second ending with the Martian Manhunter?
I liked it. Going back to what we said earlier, it didn't make sense as far as like, well, where the fuck have you been, bro? Like these last couple of years, like you've been watching me scourge the earth for all these metahumans. You got the ability to scan the earth in a moment's notice. You can do not only are you the Martian Manhunter, you're the fucking Secretary of Defense of the United States of America. Like, I think you got a lot more abilities than what the fuck you been doing, man. So you stare the Kryptonians down in the eyes. And okay. I liked it. I thought the intro was good. It's laid the foundation, but there's just fanboy continuity stuff I'll complain about. Whatever. But I liked it.
Yeah, that part is just bad storytelling, trying to retcon like, oh, he was the Martian Manhunter the whole time. It's like, well, where have you been? Like during the decimation of Metropolis and all this stuff, and Gotham. One part that did bother me, like I yelled out loud while watching the movie, is like, and when he said like, oh, some people call me Martian Manhunter. I was like, no, they don't.
Who?
Nobody knows.
Back on Mars?
Yeah, go by John Johns. That would have been better. That would have been better if I was like, my name is John Johns, as opposed to
like, who is calling you Martian Manhunter, bro? Nobody knows who you are.
Nobody. But that was just.
Is it Major Ferris? Does Major Ferris know who you are?
That was just one of those. What do you call it? The fanboy or the fan service. Yeah.
And then I think I did enjoy the switch, the interaction between Lex and Deathstroke, where
that was cool.
It wasn't like, hey, let's start a league of our own. And it was a completely different one than what we saw, which would have laid the foundation for what me and you have talked about for a while, is Ben Affleck's original story for the Batman, which was going to be a Batman versus Deathstroke storyline. And man, that was just I think the saddest and most angering part for me is that going forward, we will never see a Ben Affleck, Joe Magliano, whatever storyline going forward. Maybe we
yeah, that's the thing. I'm not one to say never anymore, because I was one of those that never believed that the Snyder Cut would be available, that we'd ever see it. But thanks to everybody with the hashtag release the Snyder Cut, those people fighting for 3 years, I tip my hat to them. A big thank you to them, or else I never would have got to see this movie. And same thing, I'm not one to say never anymore, because we got HBO Max. HBO Max might front the money for that and get these big names to come back, make it a series, like a limited series or a movie. So that'd be cool.
If you had a little six-part episodes here. I mean, they got True Detective, which they pay big money for big actors. So we know HBO and Time Warner are not unwilling to pay that money. If you say, hey, we're gonna put out a 4 to 6 episode series, 1 hour each, call it Batman Red Hood or whatever. Hey, that would be badass.
It's up to HBO Max now, because they're Warner Media. Warner Brothers Pictures is a separate thing, so I don't see Warner Brothers Pictures making a movie out of it. But Warner
HBO
Media
Max has said they're putting DC stories. They're putting DC stories out there. And
yeah, there's
another Gotham story coming out. Green Lantern.
We're getting the GCPD series. We're getting an Amazonian series, the Green Lantern series. Batgirl's getting her own series or movie. And
see, that's my problem. You can't have all these Gotham properties in this universe without having and keep making mentions of the Batman. Now, maybe they'll tie it into Teen Titans. Maybe they'll tie it into that. And when that universe already has a Batman. I haven't seen those shows. I hear they're good. I've heard they're good.
Titans is okay.
It just looks too CW too. I'm not a fan of CW. I'm not a fan of CW projects.
No, there's a visual difference. It's darker. Storytelling is a bit sloppy. It kind of tries to fit so many things, like the Robin aspect of it, leaving Batman, going on his own, then becoming Nightwing is just so convoluted. Like, I didn't buy that. But if you want a DC show to watch on HBO Max, Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol is one of the best TV shows.
I've heard of it. I've seen it. I got to kind of do a little bit of research on. I know a few of those DC characters, but I think, is Cyborg in there?
Yeah, Cyborg's in there. I knew nothing about Doom Patrol at all. The only introduction I ever had was in Titans. There's kind of like a setup for Doom Patrol is in there, kind of a setup to kind of spin them off from there. I went into Doom Patrol, and just like in the very first episode, I got hooked. It's weird, and it just gets bonkers as it goes on. The characters are awesome. The storytelling is really good. It's very like emotional. I got emotionally invested with what's his name, Brendan Fraser. He plays Mr. Robot or Robot Man on there. His story was like really emotional. You might actually connect with that, because it's a father-daughter storyline that's in there, so it's very, very good.
All right.
I
All right, maybe I'll check it out then.
Yeah,
Check
do
it
no
out.
research.
There's that one, and people keep telling me to check out that one and check out The Boys on Amazon.
Boys is amazing. Also, HBO, watch Harley Quinn.
Okay.
You
I've
Harley
seen,
Quinn?
I've seen a couple. I didn't realize it was that vulgar. Yes, but I've seen it. It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not for kids, but yeah, that's a good show.
Okay,
it's funny and yeah.
Switching gears for about the last 10, 15 minutes because we got to start to wrap this up.
How long have we been going?
I don't even know. Probably maybe over an hour, 15 minutes.
Over an hour.
Yeah.
Whoever's still watching or listening, thank you guys for sticking around.
Going forward, talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You see the opening scene. I liked it. They brought back George St. Pierre to play that terrorist villain from the Winter Soldier, which I thought was pretty cool. And he looked like he got away, so maybe they're not done with his character. I've seen him in a couple of various posters, so maybe it's just not a one-off like they did in Winter Soldier.
Yeah, Batroc the Leaper. Yeah, that was a great way to open the show. Completely different from WandaVision. It's its own thing. Very action-packed sequence to open up the show, but then it just kind of gets into more of a character study with Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is a completely different pace than what I was anticipating.
So with this, the number one thing I'm looking forward to with this series is seeing the geopolitical climate of how things have changed after the 5-year window has gone by, after everybody now has been brought back. You see mentions of it, what's happening in the world. You see Rhodey talking to Sam. Sam kind of is like, he's only been back for a few months, but Rhodey he didn't get blipped. So he's kind of like, hey man, everything's a little crazy. People that were allies ain't allies anymore. People that were enemies are allies. So things are changing a little bit. And I really think you should consider keeping that shield because it's gonna get a little wacky here. Yeah. And we see Sam having this like struggle. He's like, I don't feel like I'm worthy enough for this shield right here. Of course, he gives it back to the government, which ultimately proved to be a bad idea.
Yeah, it was a good story leading in because like a little bit more about like what happens during the blip, how things changed with politics and just the way the world has changed over the last 5 years with having people come back and the way they fit in now. And yeah, it's interesting. There's a interesting start to the show. Like, again, not what I expected. I like the Bucky kind of.
That was my next point. So you're seeing Bucky is going through what Steve went through back in like the early beginnings of Winter Soldier, where he's still trying to find his place in modern society. I love that part because we saw Steve go through that. And even though Bucky has been doing hit jobs, he was doing hit jobs back and forth from the time he became Winter Soldier. He was always going, as soon as he was done with his job, he was going back to sleep.
Yeah, like he's got more of that PTSD aspect of it, which is interesting going forward, like how he'll develop. And I'm curious, like the whole how he got pardoned kind of things. Like that was a kind of a lot of stuff that he did.
Yeah, he killed a lot of people, and not just like it wasn't just killing like random people. No, he was killing like political leaders that influenced like a lot of wars and shit. So he was single-handedly responsible for a lot of stuff that probably happened like during the Cold War.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how they dive in more with that, if they do, like how he gets pardoned, why, and like
this thing that too, he's got to make amends with everybody that like he did something to, and that's going to be interesting because now he's got to make amends with this man who he knows that he's responsible for killing. He's responsible for killing this person's like son. Sorry, there's someone's mowing the lawn outside.
That was cool. Yeah, I was able to put that together when he started hanging out with him. It was like, oh, is it because he's 100 plus years old? He has like more in common with this guy.
That's initially what we're thinking, that he likes to hang out with old people.
But then when he mentioned his son was murdered, like, oh, okay, maybe that's the kid in the nightmare that he was like, yeah, it ends up being that way.
Yeah, so I'm really interested in how that goes. And then we see at the end of the film, we see the Spirit Halloween Store version of Captain America. And the guy, I don't know, he's got a big nose. It's Kurt Russell's son from what I read.
It is,
but it just looks so bad. It was so cringeworthy seeing this fake ass Captain America coming out with his shield. You're just like, oh, Sam, you idiot. What the hell were you thinking?
Yeah, he was a bit goofy looking, I guess. But
And I mean, it's USA. I don't know too much about US Agent. It just looked very. Now I think what I want to see is how is Sam and or Bucky potentially gonna go about getting, because Bucky's gonna see it, and Bucky's probably gonna flip out when he sees this guy walking around with Steve's shield, and he's probably gonna jam up Sam, because the therapist mentioned you haven't been returning Sam's calls, his text messages. So he's probably gonna see that, and I might think his first instinct is like, what the hell did you do? Why is this fool walking around with Steve's shield right now?
Right. Yeah.
And you see there in trailers, he make mention like that shield means a lot to a lot of people. So I think this next couple episodes, we're gonna see Sam and or both of them trying to go about getting back this shield. Which makes me wonder, the trailers you see where he's practicing throwing the shield against the trees, maybe that happened. It could have happened before the events of the first episode.
Maybe, yeah. Where we went into flashbacks with WandaVision, so we might do that with this one. But looking forward to watching weekly, because this is only 6 episodes, right?
Yeah, 6 episodes. They're a little longer. Of course, you see we find out that superheroes don't actually make money. Yeah, like we got like funds, and I do a couple government contracts, and it makes sense because you think Doctor Strange, she's like struggling to give Wong like a couple bucks to go get the sandwiches. We see Steve living in like a little rundown apartment in the middle of DC. Apart from Tony, none of the Avengers really had any money. Peter and Aunt May are still living in a small apartment in Queens.
Yeah.
And then after the events of Endgame, Avengers Academy has been destroyed. It's nothing. There's nothing there. So now all these guys kind of have to find homes now. Scott Lang was a thief. Maybe he can make some more money.
I know, right? Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting how they touched on that. Other than that, though, I'm looking forward to seeing where they go from here. I've always appreciated with the Disney Plus shows that you don't get a trailer to the next episode. So I usually prefer stuff I'm interested in to not really see trailers of it, to just go in and watch it. It gives me more of an open. For me, it has always given me an open mind for like what I'm gonna see. Now I'm not influenced by, let's say, a scene I saw in the trailer. Oh shit, that was actually in the climax of the movie. I probably didn't need to see that.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm the opposite. Like I like seeing like this week or next week on or coming up on next episode type of deal. So gives you a little bit more of those little teasers to anticipate.
Yeah. Anything to add on any of these going forward? Anything you're watching? Are you watching or reading anything on the side right now?
Nah. I just finished that released the Snyder Cut book. I don't know what book I'm going to start next. I just bought the Miles Morales game. I think I'll start playing that. I've been playing some Tom Clancy's Division Part 2. As far as TV shows, you know what? We're watching. She mentioned to you about the Superman and Lois. It's actually really good.
Mm-hmm. I saw here.
Check it out.
I saw bits and pieces. Just the guy who played Superman, I don't know. He didn't seem like he's got the. We're used to seeing Henry Cavill, who's just jacked, and he fits into this costume. He looks the part. This guy, it looks like he's wearing like a puffy suit a little bit.
I grew up with Dean Cain.
I remember, and of course
Superman. So that's
But then that would we were okay with that because we remember seeing Christopher Reeves back in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure you could let it slide. Shazam looked like he had a puffy suit. I don't know if you saw Shazam.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's a good show. It's a good story because it's like it's different because it's like takes place more in the future. This is something where I've heard a lot is like, I don't get Superman, I don't get Wonder Woman because they're gods. They're like I can't relate to them. This is a story you can relate to. He's Superman. He does a Superman thing, but in this story, he's more of a father. He's got 2 kids in the show. And it's the struggles of being a family man, juggling being Superman and being a good dad. So
I'm reading Infinity War, the story arc for that, and I got about one more issue to go. Each issue is like 40 pages long, so they give you pretty detailed content. And you see in the comics how powerful Thanos really was with the gauntlet. He basically takes over, like he becomes.
Is that after Infinity Gauntlet?
So it's the Infinity Gauntlet storyline. I don't know if you've ever read that one.
I read Gauntlet. It's the only one I've ever read. Yeah.
So I didn't know. I have one more issue to go, but at this story arc, you see, after he's basically won, he's basically now the conscience of the universe. Gamora rips off the gauntlet off his hand while he's in control of everything. And then, so I got one more issue to read. So I'll finish up on that. House of M, I've been reading bits and pieces of it. It's really long, though. There's like 52 issues for this one. So it's going to probably take me a while.
I think which one did I read? I read House of M. I think I just read the basic 8-10 issue run, I think it was, or something like that.
So there's a website that I get these from, that I can get these issues. And what they'll do is they'll provide a lot of these arcs, will provide the main story arc, but then they also provide all of the tie-ins that go with it, and they put it in chronological order for you to read through it.
Got it.
So one of them I did for Flashpoint, when I read that, it had all the Cyborg storylines, Shazam storylines, the Batman storylines, all tied into the main actual issue of that too. So
the only one I read from the Flashpoint was the Batman one.
Oh, dude, I'll give
Thomas
you
Wayne and Martha. That was awesome.
I'll give you the I have it all on my terabyte. So when we meet up, I'll give you that so you can really look at all of them, and then you just look at it digitally and stuff. So all right. Other than that, then I think we'll wrap it up from here. Thanks a lot again, dude, for joining me. We'll continue this again. We'll probably get one or two more. If anybody's still listening, thank you again for listening. Until next time, we'll probably do this in about a week or two when we watch a little bit more Falcon and the Winter Soldier and see if what comes down the pipeline here in the next couple of days, if they are going to reignite any form of this DC universe. Maybe they can just keep it where they just keep the characters in play and they get someone to come be the executive producer and really start to build on these arcs going forward. And then hopefully it goes in line with some of these future projects. Hopefully we do. Hopefully we see Ray Fisher back as Cyborg. I don't know if we ever will. I would like to see it. Hopefully.
I would love that. Yeah.
If not, I think it was a great send off the last time to see all these guys on screen. And I pray and I hope that I'll see Henry Cavill again as Superman, and I'll see Ben Affleck again as Batman, and hopefully we'll see Gal Gadot. I know there's some green light on Wonder Woman 3. I don't know what it'll be about. We know Patty Jenkins will not be at the helm this time, as she's working on some Star Wars project.
She's supposed to come back.
Is she supposed to? Okay. So I know she was doing a Star Wars Rogue Squadron project that she's been asked to do.
Supposedly she's on for that. Her and Gal are doing the Cleopatra movie, and then they're supposed to do Wonder Woman 3.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that, but I will watch it with an open mind, like always.
WW84 was a good movie. It's not terrible. Let's do an episode on that. I'm down to discuss that.
All right. We'll have to go into detail. I'm gonna be bringing the big guns. You better be ready, because I'm gonna dissect. I got a lot to say about that. I did not like it for my own reasons, but all right, dude. Thanks a lot for joining me, man. We'll get it up, and we'll do this again another time. Thank you again. Thank you for everyone listening. Signing out.
Thanks for having me.
Have a good one. Take it easy.